Hi everyone, what's brewing today? Welcome back to iMukka Safe Skills Intelligence Podcast, where we will have a deep conversation into workforce transformation. This is episode number 2, the skills revolution, redefining workforce transformation. In this episode, we'll explore how workforce transformation has evolved significantly over a period of time, driven by accelerating pace of technology, automation, need of agile skill sets, and of course AI. We'll also discuss the finding of our recent report with EY and how it indicates that organization now prioritizing future-ready skills and adaptive strategies to thrive in a rapidly changing work environment, ensuring their employees are equipped for the success in the future of the work. Today we have with us Preeti Anand. So Preeti is a partner at EY, business consulting TMT sector with 20 years plus experience across product and consulting. In her role at EY, she has been driving end-to-end AI-led business transformation for her clients with a focus on productivity and business performance improvement. Moreover, Preeti has worked with 3 organizations, HP, Zeno, and UI, which are iMukka's customers. So I'm so happy to talk to Preeti and EY being a partner even. Okay. So over to Preeti to introduce herself and her work in this space. Grab your coffee of mocha and let's get this started. Over to you, Preeti.
Hey Amit, thank you so much for having me on the podcast. It's a pleasure to be here. Don't have much to add in terms of introduction, but I think just one quick thing. Given my business consulting background, I think I have had the fortune of working back with multiple global businesses and domestic clients on driving their end-to-end transformation program. Usually, the transformation objectives are very similar, right? Somebody is looking for growth, somebody is aiming for innovation, somebody is looking for capital efficiency, right? It's one of the three combinations of transformation outcomes that one is looking to achieve. But I think one thing remains common across these transformation objectives is the fact that the companies which adopt a human-centric approach to transformation are generally better at achieving better business outcomes and efficiency through the transformation program itself. And this doesn't change by the size of the industry, big or small, global or Indian. This factor continues to remain the central part. In fact, at EY, we call this as humans at the center, which essentially means that the human element is not an isolated part of transformation objective, but is very central and focal to the transformation objective itself and underpins any kind of outcomes that the business is looking to achieve. I know we'll talk more about it in our conversation, but just wanted to lay the background in terms of what kind of experience I come back from.
Sure. Thank you. Thank you. And Preeti, we have also seen with our clientele that whoever adopts it with the human in the center are more successful in their endeavors to transform business, transform talent than others. But in human, even like previously, it used to be a traditional job role-based strategies where workforce transformation used to happen. And nowadays, many organization enterprises are adopting skill-first approach. So, what do you think? In both the cases, whether it's a job-based or role-based strategies, or it's a skill-based, skill-first-based strategies, human is at the center. But what are the changes you have seen, or what are the differences, or what are the approaches you have seen customer taking as a? Is it the same or is it entirely different?
I think first, Amit, it is important to appreciate the kind of workforce transformations that we see in today's age, right? And I think workforce transformations are not new. I mean, over the last several decades, we've seen many factors at play. Globalization has been a big factor. We've seen demographic shifts being a big factor. We've seen the rise and spread of the gig economy being another key factor. And now with COVID and later, we've seen remote working come into big focus, right? So I think workforce transformation have been ongoing and there are many factors at play. But I believe one of the most important ones that we are seeing right now is the role of technology, specifically automation and AI, and how the democratization utilization of technology is enabling information workers to amplify their productivity and performance at work. I believe that going forward, the way we look at skill itself will become the common currency between humans and AI agents. And AI agents will essentially come into workforce and be aligned to every information job worker in terms of amplifying their productivity and performance. So we're not only talking about a digital age alone. It's going to be a digital age, but it is going to be a human powered digital age, right? So that's how we believe the future is going to evolve. Coming to your question around um, role based transformation and skill based transformation, I think the role based transformation had its usefulness in the past and does have some usefulness even now, but it's a very reactive approach to workforce transformation rather than being proactive. The reason I say that is I think the role based approach focuses on conventional aspects of looking at workforce transformation, right? So it essentially looks at the type of job roles that are coming into play, how many people need to be hired, what is a typical compensation figure associated with the job role, and maybe in some cases, performance ratings also being considered, right? That really doesn't position you for the future state of operations that you're looking at, because organizations which had a certain outlook about what 5 years for them from now would look like had to completely reshape and redesign that strategy, because the underlying context itself shifted, right? Specifically with the role of AI and automation. So I think given that context, the skill based intelligence approach has a lot of merits to consider, because it not only focuses on the job role, but it essentially breaks it down to looking at a very elemental value of skill. So if a company thinks about the future state of operations that it wishes to achieve, has a good understanding of the current skills base that it has and the skill inventory it has, and what is required to reach the future state in terms of the training plan or the career paths that need to be designed, it can better define or design its future state. So, in that way, I believe that the skills intelligence framework is better suited for organizations which are preparing for the future and being more proactive rather than being very reactive.
Perfect, perfect, Priti. And Priti, this is from the company's point of view or organization's point of view. How employees are looking at this transformation? Are they looking at it as an opportunity when they're mobilized, upskilled, reskilled on skill based than job based? Are they puzzled or are they aligning with this shift from job based to skill based happily, and they're excited about it? So, any pointers you have notice there?
So, Amit, a very interesting question. And I think I don't know about the feelings, whether they're happy or unhappy with it, but I think there's a definite sense that it is the need of the hour. So, in our during our research, we also spoke to multiple employees covering different industry sectors, whether they were from BFSI, healthcare, retail. And again, a common theme that emerged was that everybody had a clear understanding that they need to evolve their skill set to be in tune with what the industry requirements were, right? And not just be positioned for now, but to stay relevant for the future. So it was definitely seen as the need of the hour to be able to do that. And I think there was a general appreciation that we felt wherein employees did. Once they understood what the skill intelligence or skill based approach framework was driving towards, they were more keen to align with that approach, because it really helped them identify what were the current fitment with respect to a job role that was evolving for the future, and what kind of a career path or a learning path could they themselves design that would help them get there, right? It also helped eliminate a lot of job roles or skill requirements which will no longer be necessary for the future. And I think the skill based approach really deep dives into that level of detail.
Yeah, yeah, that's right. Perfect. So it echoes with what we are experiencing with our customers. So Preeti, just a question, like in our recent report, what we did with UI, we found out in the research that unit cost of workforce transformation can be higher without skill first approach, and it is significantly higher otherwise. So why it is so, and with skills first approach, how it gets reduced? Basically, like because we together did a lot of secondary research even on this topic, right? So what do you feel like? Why it is lowered with the skill first approach when you are doing a business transformation in current scenario?
So, Amit, we actually did a lot of primary research, as you're aware as well. So, we spoke to close to 100 HR leaders from across different industry sectors again. And I think one of the things that really stood out for us was the fact that while the HR leaders had, general measurement KPIs of measurement around hiring, retention, attrition, uh, they really did not have an accurate way of measuring it. So, for instance, hiring was basically being measured in terms of the closure of open job roles, open positions in their organization. But very often, if you drill down into the details, you would see that typically hiring accuracy or efficiency for any organization ranges between 75 to 80%, right? At a good stage, which actually means that you're more than 15 to 20% times likely to do a mishire, right? And what that means is if there is a mishire, there is the cost of, there is a lost productivity time, lost training time, maybe the cost of letting the person go as well, and then rehiring, which is not factored into the workforce transformation program from the beginning. So when we say that the skill based approach helps us realize better outcomes, what we mean by that is if it helps first baseline your current accuracy rates, it also helps you improve those accuracy rates by about 10 to 15% across hiring, across retention, across turnover, right? And it also helps you reduce your transformation cost because you can avoid some of the costly mistakes that you would end up doing and then having to backtrack and find the right people to do the job, right? So in a lot of cases we found that typically when you prepare a business plan, you would have a certain cost estimate of what the business plan will achieve and how much investment is required. We found that in a lot of business transformation cases, that cost was underrepresented or underestimated because of a lot of silent or hidden costs that went into, getting the right person on board, making sure that they're productive during that time, getting them to productivity faster, and then ensuring that you retain them for the future, right? And sometimes the transformation efficiency, or the rather the transformation cost, would spiral up by 3x to 5x depending on the type of industry or transformation case that we were looking at. So definitely the skill based approach breaks it down to giving you a realistic view on potential business outcomes that can be achieved.
Yeah, looks like I need to work on this last paragraph and come up with some formula there. Preeti, you explained it so well in terms of their benefit. So, Preeti, one question like we are serving both organization, and typically if you divide it into two categories. One is the organization which has got professional services organization basically who work on projects for the customers, IT consulting, IT services, or any project professional services or organization. And there are other organizations like banks or manufacturing or healthcare where they don't work for projects, but there is some machinery or some tools in between. And we have seen the organizations like IT consulting or IT services. The main motto behind doing this transformation is have a better talent deployment. But in case of banks, it is retaining and like growing the high performing employees. So do you echo the same, or what do you think? Like the outcome, the ultimate outcome of all this skill based organization, and the outcome of it differs from organization to organization, industry to industry, or can you also seen something that it can be broadly divided into two three outcomes, and this is how they approach and start their efforts on that?
See, I think, Amit, great question. I think fundamentally the outcomes are very similar in nature, right? Companies today are looking to be competitive, looking to be disruptive in a lot of cases, and also be capital efficient while they are at it, right? So, at an Uber level, I think the transformation objectives are very familiar sounding themes, right? But what it translates into at a industry sector and industry sub-segment level then begins to change, right? So for instance, the kind of growth, both in terms of the numbers or the projections, as well as what growth means in the context of, let's say, a AI SaaS product company versus an AI services company is going to be very different,
Hmm.
right? A services company is driven more in terms of linearity, right? And the product company is driven by non-linear, aspects of growth, right? So obviously, the way that they calibrate growth or they look at capital efficiency at a underlying level is fundamentally different. But I think at an overarching level, they are very similar themes that tend to emerge. I hope that answers your question, Amit.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, so it's still emerging, I would say, like, and many use cases will come, and AI will be again a driver there, because few industries are impacted more with AI in terms of their role and their functioning, and others are not. So your answer, like, experiences so far are in line with what we think. So Priti, one more thing, like, who within the organization, in your experience, is the person who has understood and emphasizing, oh guys, we need to go with skills intelligence as the primary thing to drive talent decisions and for workforce transformation? Who is that role? Does it come from board, CEO, or is it HR or L&D? And once they realize, okay, we need to go skill based, what is the first step they look for initially?
So I think, Amit, it has been a varied phenomenon, right? In some companies where we, spoke with them, the I wouldn't say the board, but the CEO or the CXO layer of the organization was very tuned in terms of the appreciation for driving a skill-based strategy for transformation, right? At the same time, sometimes that trickled down to specific transformation leaders, business heads, HR leaders as well. But I think there is a tri-party that needs to come together to deliver a successful outcome. It can't be only the business leaders, it can't be only the HR. I think it has to be a combination of business, HR, and finance coming together, because together they can really focus on what outcomes need to be brought out, how that will be achieved, and how will workforce or a human centric approach help them deliver that outcomes. Because at the end of the day, people are the biggest asset for any organization, in especially in the knowledge economy. So that becomes a critical point. So I think it's the combination of all these three groups of people coming together that can deliver these outcomes.
Sure. So when this three parties, you talked about business, HR, and finance, they come together, they take their efforts to set up the skills architecture and see, enroll everyone within that, and see which is the current stage of the organization. And Priti, is it different for enterprises from mid segment, or like, because of AI, everyone, like, almost a year back or 2 years back, everyone was a bit cautious and puzzled about what use cases will come, what kind of business transformation, workforce transformation can be done through AI. Is it settled currently, or is it still going on?
I think it's all in a continuous flux right now. There are a lot of organizations who have a view on what benefits AI can bring to them. And they've actually moved beyond pilot in a lot of cases, right? So they've gone beyond the initial pilot phase and looked at some realistic, adoption of AI use cases where it matters the most. Just to give an example, right? We've been working back with a lot of companies which are driving customer service transformation programs. And we see that, there's a very good understanding on the role that AI can play in terms of assisting human agents, right? So whether it is in terms of post-call summarization work, which was a manual work done earlier, whether it was in-call assistance where the human agents are actually given information by their AI agents in terms of the next best offer or next best action to take, or even ensuring that even before the agents, human agents get involved, AI agents do the job in terms of self-serve and deflection. So I think there are some use cases which have now gotten a broader understanding and also been adopted in the market. But then the potential is, I feel we've just scratched the surface. There is so much out there. And I think the story is not very different between global enterprises, large enterprises, as well as mid-market enterprises. Obviously, the nature and scale of operations makes a huge deal of difference, right? So the larger the organization, the more potential for you to drive something truly transformational at that level. But I think there is an opportunity for both, and I feel like we've just scratched the surface in terms of leveraging that opportunity.
Right. And Priti, like you talked about human powered digitization, right, earlier. So is it AI powered or human powered, or like a combination of both? Because you are saying like AI agents are assisting humans, and for setting it up, vice versa. So it's a very interesting era we are in, right? Where different use cases are created every day from AI automation. So, any typical or any success story, maybe with name or without name, you would like to share, Priti, where EY is able to serve a customer, and with business transformation, workforce transformation, it was having a lot of involvement of AI or skills intelligence or both, and it is super successful. Like you can mask it if need be, but any live use case you would like to discuss?
So, Amit, to answer your question, I think there is a very good feedback loop that is being created. Humans are training AI, and AI agents in turn are enabling humans to do their job better. So, I think it's a very nice, feedback loop that is being created here. And in the future, we'll see that the AI agents will mature even more, where there would be a superset AI agent who will be responsible for a larger end-to-end body of work, and they would have smaller agents that they could direct who could take care of small functional tasks on the ground, right? So I think there's a very good potential for the AI agents to become smarter and smarter, and that helps drive the productivity and performance for the humans as well to do their jobs better. So I see that clearly emerging in the future. With respect to your question of a specific transformation case that we have seen on the ground, right? Just going back to some of the customer service transformation work that we've been doing. So for a very large corporate, we were essentially working back with their customer service team. And we saw a dramatic shift when they moved from a role-based approach to assigning cases to a skill-based approach. I'll explain how it was happening in the past, right? So the role-based approach was essentially that, there are agents who are waiting for incoming calls, which are customer service calls, and the allocation of those cases was happening basis the product or the service that the human agent was providing, as well as whether it was a L1, L2, L3 issue, and maybe some understanding of their queue, right? So which agents had a leaner queue so that the case could actually be assigned there, right? So that was how the earlier method of the case based allocation was happening. But moving forward, when they moved to a skill based approach, what they essentially did was that instead of using a conventional method of allocating cases on the factors that I said earlier, they started mapping out what was the skill level of each agent to respond to the incoming customer service queries, right? So the skill level played a very important role. And what was also being fed into the system was their proficiency to address those specific natures of cases that were coming in, right? Based on the case intent or the case identifier. Now, how that helped this particular organization was when they moved from the role based allocation to a skill based allocation, they saw a significant drop in average handling times because the case was actually being assigned to somebody who knew exactly how to address it. The case reassignment rates significantly dropped because no longer were the cases being shuttled to different people, but it was being handled first time at the human agent itself, right? And I think the most important factor that happened was the improvement in customer experience, because once you have a customer calling in and you're able to resolve their queries faster, in a much more smoother experience with more knowledge, it dramatically improves the CSAT or the customer experience numbers. So that is how I think skill based approach can really play a transformative role on the ground.
Yeah, yeah. And as you said, it's a big impact for the organization, right?
Yeah,
I-
not to say all the all the dollars they saved, because as soon as your metrics on AHT and FCR try to go up, right, and your CSAT improves, it obviously means better efficiency and effectiveness as well.
Yeah, yeah. In fact, in one of our experience, what we have seen, that there was a big team which was getting released because of some business reasons, and the organization wanted to redeploy them. Okay, and though there were not roles which were matching 100% to their current role, what this organization did in our case is got the data of their last 3 job profiles within the organization or outside, and because their whole skills ontology was created, we they consider them not only on the skills of today, but because you have a job role, their last 3 job roles in which they work in which they worked in the past, either in the same company or other company in the past, we had a skill ontology. They were able to find out suitability within the organization for 80% of the people, because in the past they were working on some roles and skills which are relevant today, and they had available projects. So and it's a huge, if they would have taken some right sizing decisions there, they would have a huge cost to recruit those people otherwise, right?
Yeah,
There are different use cases that are
that's a
coming.
very beautiful use case, Amit. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's a big saving. At the same time, they were able to internally mobilize the person who are already deployed to the organization with the culture, with the processes, right?
And I
uh,
think it plays a huge role also in terms of employee engagement, right? When you are better mapped to the kind of roles where you can perform more, much better in terms of your performance itself, right? It really goes down in terms of how the employee feels motivated or engaged at their work. You're much more likely to have a disgruntled employee when they're doing something which they either don't like or they feel that their skills don't match that, right? And they're being expected to do something else altogether. So I think it plays a very big role in employee engagement as well.
Yeah, yeah. In fact, with one of our banking customer in Middle East, they were trying to open up new branches in new country within the Middle East region, and they wanted to recruit like they were planning to open 40 branches in some other country, and for the first time. And with skills intelligence, they were able to find out and internally mobilize with their current like second in command, and they send them as a manager who build the team there. So there are a lot of interesting use cases that are coming up with skills intelligence as a core, Priti. So nice to know this customer service uh, use case and the impact.
Amit, I have a quick question for you, right? We see a lot of dichotomy in the industry. On one side, we've heard of a lot of organizations, especially tech organizations, where they have been downsizing in light of some of the macroeconomic headwinds that they're facing in the market, right? At the same time, there's a very strong push to hire quickly and hire for some of the key roles. How do you see that playing out, and what's your outlook on the demand supply equation moving into next year, FY25?
Yeah. So Priti, like in COVID days when everyone was working from home, so it was, I would say, overstuffing, and though everyone was working well from remote, but hybrid looks like a choice for people going further. Okay, so they were overstaffed. Nowadays, what is happening? Many customer with the advent of AI and Gen AI especially are finding out their own use cases. Okay, and now if you would have noticed, GCCs are flourishing. They are recruiting more and more. GCCs are coming to India from the like US and all. So many customers, ultimately IT consulting or IT services companies serve customer. And if customers are looking for options themselves and they're not sure whether to outsource it or whether to create a captive center, okay, and that's still going on, and that's the reason it's a cautious hiring currently, I would say, in both the cases. Over a period of time, I would say both markets, both like GCC will keep growing. Okay. At the same time, once different use cases will come, maintenance support and testing and work will come, it will grow IT consulting even, but it may not get the glory back of what it was 3 4 years back. That's what we are saying, at least in for IT consulting, IT services. So the numbers will grow, but not, it will be marginal, not like, and that's the reason. If you see, uh, there is a downsize in terms of number of people grown in India for top 5 IT consulting companies last year.
And Amit, I don't know if you've seen some of the professional services organizations in our space have actually made an announcement that one of the reasons why they are not going big in terms of hiring is to do with the fact that how they've adopted technology, right? And they feel like I actually heard even a startup founder speak to me last week and say that, you know, the AI agents that they're using right now has eliminated the need to hire 10 people. And this is a startup founder speaking. Do you really believe that these numbers are true, or are we being realistic about it, or is it still an inflated sense of expectation and opportunity there?
So I would say this will be a new reality. Okay, currently it is inflated because we have a context. Going further, like everybody will be used to it. So in AI, there are a lot of things that can go. First is AI agent, second is co-pilot, third is I would say AI powered, and then comes the NLP and ML. So if you are a new age founder who is just thinking of AI first in everything you do, in fact, we we just given a space and incubated a AI startup within iMuka in Pune, and they got recently funded. The way these guys think, who are AI first, with that, what that founder has made a comment that one person can do a job of 10 people, I would say it is true. Okay. But with, if you ask a founder like me who has come up with a SaaS background and now powering AI to do some job, I would say it is not 10, but still it is 4.
Wow.
Yeah. AI has impacted many jobs. Like if you think like a startup founder, it starts with marketing, especially digital marketing, content marketing. Then in iMuka is into business of creating skills, architecture, skill taxonomy, skill ontology, skill assessment, library. 80 90% AI with human in the loop. Okay.
Mhm.
So in our business, even we have seen it. And what that person has said, I would say 10 versus 1 is may not be the ratio, but for certain departments, certain functions, 1:4 we have also seen.
That's an amazing efficiency.
Yeah.
And yeah.
And as a startup, like you are agile, right? You quickly take a decision and implement it. For enterprises, it takes time to take decision and do that. But you will hear it more from startup founders, like the stories I'm saying.
Yeah, especially given the level of experimentation and innovation that you're credited with. I think you guys can, lead the path.
Yeah. Yes. Thank you. Thank you so much, Priti, for being on iMuka Say podcast.
It was a pleasure being with you, and thank you again for giving me the opportunity to being on IMOCA.